Good evening. Welcome to the December 2nd edition of Sports on Sunset. I'm James Jericho.
I am Jeremy Paul.
Charming. Let's get started with some NFL quick take. You know, for all the talk we've heard for so long about alleged parity in the National Football League, I'm a tad skeptical. The teams from the playoffs last year included the following: the Texans, Bengals, Falcons, Giants, Broncos, Packers, Niners, Patriots, and Ravens, all of whom are very likely and most of whom already have qualified for the playoffs this year. The Steelers are on the cusp, and there's only really 2 out of all 12 playoff teams last year that are definitely not going to make it. That would be the Lions and Saints. So right now, I shouldn't say right now, but at the start of play today, 17 teams were under 500. That's not parity, not at all. Next take.
I think this might be the first time ever done on this web series. Instead of a take, I'm just going to show something to the camera before. Thank you.
Because he is nothing if not repetitive. When running backs hit 30, I'm not by any means somebody who knows everything about the way bodies work, but for whatever reason, when running backs hit 30, their legs go. Michael Turner of the Atlanta Falcons turned 30 before the season started. Tough, grinded out between the tackles kind of back, my kind of guy. With that said, he has had an awful year. He has been one of the weaklings on an otherwise pretty damn good Falcons team. No, with all due respect, it is time to start Jaquez Rogers out of Oregon State. That guy was just blasting through people when he was in the Pac-10, and he showed a lot to me in the reserve role. You gotta play him. He's got to be number 1 now.
I hope I'm not stepping on your final thought by saying this. It's of course in the news. They actually had a tribute to the guy earlier today. The guy, the football player who killed himself. What you won't hear about is that there was also a Cleveland Browns employee who also shot himself on Saturday that nobody knows. Hey, news! Get on the guy that didn't kill his girlfriend first. You know, just saying.
This might actually, if you think about it, start a trend. Both the Chiefs and the Browns won today. But
that would be so wrong. Hey, we need somebody to kill themselves this week.
Just saying, folks.
Hey, Roach, want to get out there?
Andrew Siciliano of some network that I don't bother to watch anymore. He's a weird-looking guy. Anyway, said the NFL notices things like blackouts today in Oakland and San Diego, both in California, and therefore that bodes ill for the prospect of bringing the team back to Los Angeles. I'm skeptical of that being the reason. We're talking about 2 lousy teams in 2 lousy stadiums, as opposed to Farmers Field, which presumably, if it would get built, would be brand spanking new. At least a year or so of just gleam and glamour, and those luxury boxes that would probably sell for $1 million a year at least. Because let's be honest, this is LA, and there's just money. Not everybody in LA is rich, but those who are rich are incredibly jaw hitting the floor rich. So I don't think Oakland or San Diego's troubles have anything to do with LA.
The Detroit Lions lost today to the Indianapolis Colts. No one cares. Next thing.
Actually, I was kind of thinking that we ought to switch over to our main take, our main topic of the day. Earlier, or within the last 7 days, the University of Colorado fired its head football coach, Jon Embree. He was only given 2 years to run the program, and to be frank, there's no question that Colorado was an absolutely awful team. They were 1-11 this year, Their defense allowed 46 points per game, which is the absolute last in major college football. And there were a bunch of other reasons. He'd only had 4 wins in the 2 years. However, what drew my attention to it was his reaction and the reaction of those around him. They brought out the race card.
Well, of course they did.
Now, he hinted at it, the coach hinted at it, but he didn't specifically say that. What he was saying is that he had to come in to clean out a culture of corruption within the Colorado within Colorado football.
That he did.
To get people to go to class. And then, of course, as recruiting comes in, he brings in his own players, turn the thing around. That was the polite way. His former coach and former Colorado coach, Bill McCarthy, took it in an entirely different direction. He just flat out said it was race. Quote, I heard the chancellor say it doesn't matter what color Jon Embree is. To me, that offends every person of color out there. And there are other issues that might lead the case to race may have played some semblance of a role here. For example, Embree was hired. He earned $750,000 a year. Now Colorado is pitching around $2.5 million for its new coach. And in a sense, it might have also been an affirmative action, well, even though it doesn't really exist anymore technically, it might have been an affirmative action hire, because Embree not only had no previous head coaching experience, he had no experience as either an offensive or defensive coordinator. It is a murky situation. Colorado was once a prominent program and has been a disaster for quite a while.
Salam went there.
Yeah, so there's a lot of different ways that it could go. But the first question would be, before we, let's lay a ground line here, baseline. How many years is it acceptable to say, I see progress in a particular program?
You can see progress in the first year. You can fire somebody after the first 3 games. There's been, I believe there was a coach that was fired after the first game. Actually, there was a coach fired at 3 quarters into his first game. Not that long ago. I think like 3 or 4 years ago. 3 quarters into his first game, he was fired. Why? Because the college realized he doesn't know what he's doing. This team looks awful. He needs to go. So they fired him. I wrote it down. I can't remember what it was. If you suck as a coach,
define progress, by the way.
Progress. What was the record? 1-11 this year.
1-11 this year. 3 wins last. 3 or 4 wins last year.
You've obviously devolved. I understand if the previous year you're playing with the other guys' players, right? Mm-hmm. The next year you're supposedly bringing in some of your own, plus playing with the other guys' players. So nothing really changes except for the people you bring in. You should be able to bring in transfers from junior colleges. You should be able to bring in new freshmen. You should bring in new recruits and walk-ons. That's the 4 that you should be able to bring in. If you can't improve your team, you need to go. And obviously, he couldn't improve his team.
The things that bother me about it, there's layers to this that really bother me. And some of it actually does have to do with race. I can't think of too many worse jobs out there right now than Colorado. There was barely any talent. When they were good, they were scandal-ridden. But the pressure was on. They went to the Pac-12, so there's a lot more money laying on the line. Yeah. I laid out what had happened that may or may not have played a role into his hiring. Because he is Colorado's first black coach, and we've also laid out some of the stuff into firing. How much does race play into this into something like this when you consider Colorado's history?
What plays a role there is the fact that the chancellor is the one that brought up race. Had he just said the coach is not doing his job, we have no confidence in his abilities to coach, maybe we should go in a different direction. And not, even if everybody else is mentioning race, if you don't, you can't be called racist. Well, you can be called racist, but it will be wrong. Him bringing up it doesn't matter what color, then you draw attention to the fact that oh, maybe this was an affirmative action hire. Maybe we're firing him because he's black. Maybe blah, blah, blah. Bring up an example. There's the Morehead State coach. 4 seasons, he didn't win much of anything. He was, it's a funny story. He was fired, but not yet. Mm-hmm. Here's what happened. He was fired because, again, the athletic director. The athletic director was receiving an email from somebody else that's, I guess, in charge of helping to fire people. And the email mistakenly went to the coach of Morehead State.
Yeah.
He got CC'd in it. So he knows he's getting fired at the end of this year. Mm-hmm. Why? Not because he's a black coach. He is. But because he sucks as a coach. He's horrible. But in the email, it's not mentioning anything about race. Not, hey, let's get this black dude out of here. No, you suck. You need to go. We need to go in another direction. And that's what the Colorado chancellor should have done.
Okay. Would a white guy have gotten in a 3rd year?
No.
Are you sure? What tells you that a white guy wouldn't have gotten a 3rd year?
If a white guy coached the same way, did the exact same things, didn't bring in the amount of recruits, didn't bring any sort of contacts with endorsement deals, anything of the sort. If he did the same shitty job that Embree did, he would go too. He would probably have went last year. I think being black maybe got him an extra year.
Well, actually, firings after 2 seasons is pretty rare.
Really?
According to I don't have the numbers in front of me. Usually, you get 3. But what caught my attention is that we're talking about Embree, who's out after 2 years, and of course, other people who are willing to play up the race card. Mentioned also Turner Gill over at Kansas, gone after 2 years.
I didn't know about that.
Yeah, the reason that bothers me. Look, I'm not going to sit there and argue for an affirmative action program to be placed over the NCAA for coaches because that's unwieldy. It's individual colleges, etc.
Right.
But the thing that really bothers me about it is that Tyrone Willingham is the only coach in major college football to get a second chance. Fired by Notre Dame, he was their first black coach. Yeah. Later hired by Washington. Now he stunk it up at both schools.
Yeah.
But with that said, it's you're talking about other coaches, not getting their second shot. And if Embree sucks, and he probably does, so be it. But if we're talking about other guys out there, it's like I'm one and done. Look at how many other coaches get a second shot.
Colorado used to churn out running backs.
Right.
Have you heard anything about any Colorado running back in the last 2 years?
Oh, of course not.
That should tell you that running backs don't want to go there. Barry Sanders Jr. didn't go there.
Well, how much is this then becomes unrealistic self-delusion on the part of Colorado?
What do you mean?
Well, the fact that, hey, we're still Colorado and we should be able to win and this, that, or the other. How much of that is unrealistic?
Well, no, it's not unrealistic. They have a history of at least doing well, of being known. No one has talked about Colorado until now for the last 3 years. That's you can't do that for, as you said, a program that was once in prominence.
Why do you believe? I shouldn't say why do you believe, but why does it appear to be easier for a black coach to be hired in the NFL than in college?
Well, mostly it's because nowadays the black coaches that they are hiring, usually are former players, and that's
Embree used to play. So did Carl Durrell.
Yeah.
So did Turner Gill.
Right.
Etc.
But the players that are the coaches that are former players, like Herm Edwards, and oh wow, why did this name slip my mind? Art
Shell. Can't be Art Shell.
The Vikings guy. The black dude that was the Vikings guy.
Leslie Frazier. I don't even know if he's black. I thought he was.
Not Vikings, Raiders. Sorry.
Art Shell.
That was Art Shell?
Yeah.
What are you, lineman?
Yes.
Yeah. Like, people like this. I'm sorry, it slipped my mind. I was making a point. Former players that become coaches. half of them stink up the joint. The other become fodder for ESPN, making fun of them after they make a horrible speech. Mike Singletary. You got all these former players that become coaches, and they work their way up through the ranks to become coaches. It's just like in the NBA. You got black players becoming coaches now. Mainly because they've worked their way up. People trust them because they say they know the game. Then they turn out they don't know the X's and O's of the other side, and they fuck up. And that's what happens. People fuck up. Wayne Embree didn't know defense.
I have a different explanation. This is just me shooting this one up against the wall, but coaches have networking knowledge. And it's not just networking with other coaches. You do that to build a recruiting pipeline to high schools around the country. And hopefully if you're in LA or a major, which Colorado is obviously not as major as LA and the Southeast, etc., you develop your network, you get the best athletes to come in, etc., etc. It becomes, to me, I mean, it's easier for a Lane Kiffin to have that sort of a network than it is for an Embree. And that was even when Kiffin was coaching the Raiders, left there for Tennessee. He already had a USC assistant coaching pedigree, so he was trying to pull in athletes from California, and now that he's at SC, he's trying to pull in athletes from the Southeast as well as Cali. The only black coach I can recall being hired to a school with a premium pipeline for recruiting was Willingham at Notre Dame.
Right.
Is there how much validity do you give that, the whole idea that you need coaches with that recruiting pipeline of basically having all these high school coaches already on your speed dial, knowing who to contact?
All right, I'll go with basketball for an example. In Illinois, they have what's called the Peoria Pipeline.
Right.
Okay, Peoria Pipeline, my hometown, leads basically all those high school players end up going to the U of I, the University of Illinois. And they end up starring, well, some star there, some don't. DJ Richardson is the current starting point guard. He's a senior from Peoria. It happens. This is what happens. You have a city that basically feeds your college. Colorado should have been able to get people from Denver. They should have been able to get people from Aurora. These cities are hotbeds of football. He got nobody. He wasn't getting anybody. People were going elsewhere, and you can't. People, if your top high school football player, if your top high school football player goes to Boise State instead of Colorado, the top football player from the state of Colorado, I believe, went to Boise State. Instead of a school in state, you're not going to win.
What's more likely to happen? A black coach takes over a winning program, a kind of a winning program, and turns it into a national power, or a black coach makes a crappy program into a power slowly over a period of time? If you were to put money on it.
If I was to put money on it, I'd say build one up slowly. And here's why. If a black coach is going to take over anywhere, it's going to be he gets a chance because the coach dies. The head coach dies, and he's the offensive coordinator or the defensive coordinator. He gets promoted, and then over a period of years, because they're mourning, they forget. Oh, he doesn't know what he's doing, but then he learns on the job, and he slowly builds up. And sometime down the line, he gets 300-something yards, 300-something wins. And, well, yeah, he's Eddie Robinson.
Yeah. Tell you what, why don't you tell them what's on your mind, brother?
Well, what's on my mind is that last week I talked about dancing and how I wanted Christopher Walken to get an Olympic gold medal. Mm-hmm. And basically how dance should be an Olympic sport, because it should be. This week, I would like to talk about what shouldn't be an Olympic sport. People have made fun of this sport quite a long time, ever since they discovered it 12 years ago. I don't even consider it really a sport. I found out that there's been a push for it. to be an Olympic sport. And I object. Look, people, lawn darts is not a sport. It's just not. Stop it. We already have curling. At least they're moving. Lawn darts, you're standing there. We got shooting sports. We got people riding horses. We got horse dancing. We don't need... How is horse dancing a sport, by the way, and not regular ass dancing with humans? Doesn't matter. we got people that do dumb shit, and it's called an Olympic sport. I don't want to see lawn darts. We already got the javelin. We got the discus. We got. You realize you're in the camera? I can see. we got way too. I've lost my train of thought. We got way too many damn sports in the Olympics. Not everybody needs a gold medal, especially if you can't do anything athletic. All right, throwing a lawn dart is not a sport. Stop it. Badminton is barely a sport. I support badminton. Barely a sport. If I see lawn darts as a sport, I'm taking up skeet shooting, and I'm gonna shoot lawn dart players. That's what's gonna happen. Fuck lawn darts. Seriously, dancing should be an Olympic sport. I want to see somebody do the hammer.
Friends, the Mark Sanchez controversy over in New York. I'm not even going to wind up talking about it in a sense. It's ancillary. Reached a new low last week when longtime Jets fan Fireman Ed
keep going.
decided to put away his helmet. Oh, he'll still show up at the Jets game. But no more will his helmet glisten. No more shall his white helmet stand firm and proud.
Get the fuck out of here.
Because after wearing a Mark Sanchez jersey this year in support of the quarterback, other Jets fans, apparently conservative Christian types, started rallying for Tim Tebow and started taking it out on Fireman Ed.
Fucking idiot. He wrote a blog. He wrote a letter to fucking jackass. I'm sorry.
Look, the upshot is this. You attention whore. You're not fooling anybody. This is just like one step away before you climb to the top of whatever skyscraper in New York, shoot somebody in a Giants jersey, and fling yourself off the side with a suicide note all the while saying, "I miss Ken O'Brien." This is...
And the Jets will win the next week.
I have no idea how you knew I was going to talk about Fireman Ed. I'm pretty good at keeping my cards close to the chest.
Seriously, so she said the Jets was like, yep, he's going to talk about Fireman Ed. That's why I covered my face. I was like, he doesn't know I know. This is what's going on in his head. I'm sorry.
I got nothing.
I'm sorry.
I got nothing.
I'm sorry. Oh, seriously, Fireman Ed, you're a douche. You're a douche, man. You're a glorified fan. Take your ass home. Keep your jersey on, man. Your team sucks. I'm a Bears fan. My team sucks. Get over it. Oh. Seriously, Fireman Ed. He wrote a letter to the editor like he's important. And they post some shit like he's important. You're a guy that leads a cheer. You lead a cheer. You're a fucking cheerleader, Fireman. Get your porn star. Get your porn movie on. You're an idiot. Fireman Ed.
Of course, why is he known as Fireman Ed? In tribute for the first responders at 9/11. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm sorry. I fucked up your shit, man. I'm sorry.
We'll be back next week with something that might actually sneak past this plug.
I'm sorry.
Jeez.
Jeremy.